Yo, what is going on, everybody? This is RBT and welcome back to another episode of the Rejects Madden 19 franchise series. Today we are going to meet the Dublin Shamrocks roster and go over the rules for this series when it comes to building this team through the future. It's going to involve a ton of fan interaction and probably a lot of freaking luck for us to get some wins. So now let's meet your Dublin Shamrocks. Starting at the quarterback position, and the depth chart is completely open, so disregard the depth chart at this point. But first quarterback we do have on the team is none other than Mark Sanchez. What would a team of rejects be without Mark Sanchez coming in at a 65 overall? Sanchez has not played in the game since 2016 and is actually coming off a suspension for PEDs. And crazy enough, out of all the quarterbacks on this roster, Sanchez is actually the last quarterback to take a snap. And that, like I said, is all the way back in the year 2016. The next quarterback on the roster is none other than Johnny Manziel, sitting at 6 foot, 200 pounds out of Texas A&M with an outstanding 63 overall. Manziel has not played in the NFL since 2015. Manziel last played in the Canadian Football League and actually struggled quite a bit in his last season, throwing 2 touchdowns to 5 interceptions, so he might actually be considered a long shot to start at the quarterback position for the Dublin Shamrocks. Well, say that. Freaking all the quarterbacks suck. Next, maybe considered the biggest surprise on this whole entire roster is Jamarcus Russell, the 6'6", 280-pound quarterback, former #1 draft pick out of LSU, widely considered as the biggest bust in NFL history. Jamarcus Russell hasn't played in the NFL for almost 10 freaking years. He's tried several comeback attempts in the NFL, most recently in 2016, but was not signed to an NFL roster. But now he has his shot with the Dublin Shamrocks. And the fourth and final quarterback to begin on the Dublin Shamrocks roster is none other than Pat White, the former second-round draft pick out of West Virginia University. The absolute collegiate beast who broke so many records in college was drafted in the second round by the Miami Dolphins and only played 1 year in the NFL, most recently playing in 2014 for the Edmonton Eskimos in the CFL. Pat White making an NFL comeback, and obviously he's more of a scrambling quarterback who does come to the Dublin Shamrocks roster with 89 speed. But at 32 years old, we're going to be able to see if Pat White still has what it takes to provide a spark for an NFL team. Now moving on to the running back position, and starting off with what is probably the most controversial signing for the Dublin Shamrocks, and that is Ray Rice at a 67 overall. Has not played in the NFL since 2013 following some insane domestic violence charges, but he does get his second chance in the NFL with the Dublin Shamrocks. He is 31 years old at this point, normally past the prime of a running back, but basically he's the best we could get to come to Dublin. And what would a team of rejects be without Trent Richardson? And dog, what's on his freaking head? What the heck? Dog, you gotta get that fixed ASAP. So, Trent Richardson's career already getting off to a rocky start in Dublin. But as we guys all know, Trent Richardson also regarded as one of the biggest busts in the modern era. Now at 28 years old and only a 62 overall. Most recently played for the Birmingham Iron of the Alliance of American Football. Yes, you heard that right. The Dublin Shamrocks are signing players from the Alliance of American Football. Did you know what that is? Do you know that was a football league? No, I didn't think so. But Trent Richardson is the next notable reject on the Dublin Shamrocks roster, and we've got to do something about that head. Dude, I've never seen such a thing, but it's interesting nonetheless. I like it. He's trying to stand out from the rest of the rejects. And the other running backs on the roster, Dalton Croissant, a 60 overall. We'll call him Dalton Croissant for the series. And Blake Sims, the former University of Alabama quarterback, converted running back, really hasn't played at all in the NFL at a 58 overall. The only fullback we have signed to the roster is Glenn Gronkowski, the 59 overall brother of Rob Gronkowski. Now moving on to the wide receiver position, Corey Coleman, who was actually the highest overall player for your Dublin Shamrocks at a 71 overall. Corey Coleman's gone through some crazy recent times. 2018 provided a rocky year for Corey Coleman. The former first-round pick of the Cleveland Browns split the year between 4 different teams, being traded from the Browns to the Bills, getting cut by the Bills, to the Patriots, getting cut by the Patriots, and then signed by the New York Giants, then released by the Giants at the end of the year, and now he is a Shamrock. The next wide receiver on the roster, and technically, kind of, sorta, the only Jacksonville Jaguar to come to Dublin, that is Justin Blackmon, the former number 5 overall draft pick in the 2012 NFL Draft, was so talented out of college, but dogs, this guy has not played in the NFL since 2013. He's been suspended every year since then, and finally was reinstated for the 2019 season, as since he hasn't played in like 5 or 6 years, no other NFL team wanted him, but you know what, that is absolutely perfect for us. Next we have Max McCaffrey, yes, the brother of Christian McCaffrey, 63 overall wide receiver. Next we have Trey Griffey, the 63 overall wide receiver, and this is the son of former MLB Hall of Famer Ken Griffey Jr. The next wide receiver we have on the team is Armonte Edwards. At a 63 overall, 30 years old, you might be asking, who the heck is Armonte Edwards? Well, do you remember about 10 or 11 years ago when Appalachian State upset Michigan? It was probably the biggest upset in college football history. Armonte Edwards was the quarterback for that team. Armonte Edwards was one of the best quarterbacks in FCS history, converted to wide receiver in the NFL when he was signed by the Carolina Panthers, has been in the CFL for a couple years, and now makes his return to the NFL with your Dublin Shamrocks. And last but not least, the oldest player on this Shamrock roster, and probably the biggest surprise, Chad Johnson. Yes, you heard it, Chad Johnson, after being out of the league for freaking so long, decides to come back as he does want another shot in the NFL. Since he's been out of the league so long, he's only a 61 overall, as his athleticism has dipped with age and for just being out of the league for so freaking long. But maybe a signing just to sell some tickets. But at the end of the day, like I said, we need as much potential talent as we possibly could get on the Shamrocks team. Moving on to the tight end position, we have Tyrone Swoops, the former quarterback for the University of Texas Longhorn football team, converted to tight end in the NFL, and is now, as a 67 overall, one of the best tight ends on this roster. Next, we have another former quarterback converted tight end, and that is Blake Bell from the University of Oklahoma at a 62 overall, has not been a part of an NFL team in a long time. Last but not least, we had to bring the absolute beast, Wes Saxton, to the squad. At a 61 overall, has been cut from a couple practice squads recently, but once again, perfect for us, as the legend himself out of the University of South Alabama has made his way across seas to Dublin. Starting at left tackle, Eric Flowers. The most hated man in New York was finally released, not picked up by anybody because everybody knew how bad he actually was. And since no other team signed him, he's made his way to Dublin. At a 66 overall, he's one of the best offensive linemen that we have. Backing him up is some guy named Lawrence. At left guard, we have Alex Boone at a 67 overall. He's getting on up there in age and couldn't find a contract anywhere else in the NFL. He is 6'8", so provides a ton of size on that O-line. And one of the most interesting and surprising signings for the Dublin Shamrocks at left guard is Albert Hainsworth, the former defensive tackle who has been out of the league for 7 years. The former first-round draft pick of the Tennessee Titans, who played pretty well for the Titans, and then signed what many consider to be the worst contract in NFL history, as he went to the Redskins on a huge deal. Never heard anything else from Albert Hainsworth. He's one of the many players who did have an interest in coming back to the NFL, although he's 37 years old, because he knew this was his last chance at a little bit of glory in the NFL. But the only way he would be signed is if you play guard. So, never played guard before, this is going to be interesting. At center, nobody really that notable. Just this 62 overall Daniel and 61 overall Dylan. Now at right guard, we have Dejon Allen starting for us. Maybe we can move Albert Haynesworth over to the right side, but backing him up might be one of the most controversial players on this team, and that is Jonathan Martin, the 61 overall right guard out of Stanford. He has not played in the NFL since 2015. You may or may not know Jonathan Martin, most known for being a part of the Richie Incognito bullying scandal, as he was supposedly the victim in that situation. But disregarding that, he has not played in the NFL since 2015. At that point, he was a member of the Carolina Panthers practice squad. But he had some talent back in the day, as he was a second-round draft pick. The whole bullying scandal completely ruined his career, and now gets another shot as a 29-year-old for the Dublin Shamrocks. Backing him up, some guy named Daryl. And at the right tackle position, we have former first-round draft pick Greg Robinson. One of the biggest busts of the modern era, gets another shot in the NFL to more than likely start for your Dublin Shamrocks. At a 66 overall, one of the best O-linemen that we currently have on the team. And backing him up, a guy named Chris. Once again, another guy named Daryl. Nobody wants Daryls. On the defensive line, at the left end position, we have none other than Vernon Golston. One of the biggest busts out of the last 10 years. Was the number 6 overall draft pick in the 2008 NFL draft of the New York Jets, and never recorded a sack in the NFL. Has not played in the NFL since being a practice squad member of the St. Louis Rams in 2012. So 6 years later, tries to make a comeback with the Dublin Shamrocks. And backing him up is former Alabama transfer D-liner. Wasn't good enough to play for Alabama, but as a 60 overall, is good enough to be a member of this Dublin Shamrock team. At the right end position, we have Daquan Bowers at a 67 overall. The former second-round draft pick of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers out of Clemson University, was the top-rated recruit coming out of high school, signed with Clemson, had a pretty good career, and had a decent start to his career in Tampa Bay, but tailed off ever since. Ended up playing in the CFL and actually retired just before the beginning of the 2018 CFL season. He sat out the 2018 season, but once he heard there was a chance to come back to the NFL, he decided to sign for your Dublin Shamrocks. And behind him, we have Bumni Ratimi. Now, at the defensive tackle position, for starters, we have none other than Sean Oakman. Best known for being a meme and not his football ability, as he never actually was a part of an NFL roster. Maybe the scariest man in football, but not necessarily the best football players, as he's played for, get this, he's played for the Triangle Torch and the Bismarck Bucks. But at 6'8", 287 pounds, based purely off his athletic potential, we have signed Sean Oakman as a member of the Dublin Shamrocks. Next defensive tackle on the roster, Terrence Cody. 62 overall out of the University of Alabama, better known as Mount Cody, as one of the freaking biggest players in the NFL. That's a thick boy. Cody's not played in the NFL for the past 4 years, but at the age of 30, decided to, get back in shape and give the NFL one more chance. And also, we have this guy named Lewis. Moving on to your Shamrocks linebacker core. First of all, on the left side, we have Solomon Elimian. We're going to go with that. But the linebacker out of Hawaii at 31 years old, 65 overall, you might be wondering, who the heck is this guy? This guy is widely considered as the best pure linebacker in the Canadian Football League, but never made it in the NFL. He tried out for 2 teams, the Buffalo Bills and the Cleveland Browns, but never actually made it onto their active roster. But for the first time, is a member of an active roster in the NFL with your Dublin Shamrocks. Backing him up is a veteran, Frank Zombo. 64 overall, gotta have Frank. Frank's the man. At the middle linebacker position, for starters, we have Hayes Pulliard III, who never really made a name for himself in the NFL. Was a part of a couple NFL teams, but really didn't start for anybody. But he is one of our highest overall linebackers at a 67 overall. And next, one of my personal favorites on this roster, at middle linebacker, we have Mark Herzlich at a 64 overall out of Boston College. Definitely a veteran at 32 years old. Was an absolute menace at linebacker at Boston College, but unfortunately was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer throughout his collegiate career, but did come back and had an incredible final year at Boston College. So what a story this guy is. Really hasn't, done that much in the NFL. Has been in the league for 8 years, but now has his chance at 32 years old to be a starter in the NFL. And our final middle linebacker on the roster is Shane Scove, another guy who was very talented at college, played for Stanford, was really good, but just never really made a name for himself in the NFL. And at right outside linebacker, we have Daddy and Ben. What a combo. Now moving on to your Dublin Shamrocks secondary. At cornerback, we have D Virgin. Moving along, Michael Jordan. Yep, Michael Jordan. It's not, Michael Jordan you're thinking of, but his name's Michael Jordan nonetheless. And another one on a long list of former draft busts on this Dublin Shamrocks roster is D. Milner, the cornerback who was a former number 1 draft pick out of the University of Alabama, was actually the number 9 overall picked by the New York Jets, and has not played in the NFL since the 2015 season. But actually is one of the higher overall players on this roster, once again trying to prove that he has what it takes to be a member of an actual good NFL team. And once again, another bust at the cornerback position, we have Justin Gilbert. 65 overall, another first-round draft pick, actually the number 8 overall draft pick in the 2014 NFL Draft out of Oklahoma State. Only played in the NFL for 3 years and hasn't played for the past 2 years. Was a huge bust, but just like D. Milner, trying to prove himself once again in the NFL. And for depth, we have Teddy and Akeem. And at free safety, we have Vinny Censuri, another former University of Alabama player. Was actually a walk-on at Alabama, former draft pick of the New Orleans Saints, but just really didn't do much in the NFL. Actually has never recorded a tackle in the NFL. It hasn't played since 2016, but hopefully, at least for us, he'll make a tackle. Because if he doesn't, that's not really good. And backing him up, potentially, is Fish. A fish. Now at strong safety, we have 60 overall Jeremy Reeves, a former University of South Alabama player that was in my ping pong class. So, he's being signed. Was actually signed to the Eagles practice squad, then got cut. Backing him up is this guy. His actual name is Prince Charles. Prince freaking Charles. And at kicker, we have the co-highest overall player on this team, and that is Roberto Aguayo. We all know the story of Mr. Aguayo, one of possibly the most disappointing players in NFL history. As a kicker, was drafted in the second round of the 2016 NFL Draft and only played for the Bucs, the team he was drafted by, for 1 year. He just sucked. In college, he was perfect, and in the NFL, he just freaking sucked. But, as we all know, we need a kicker in Dublin, and he hopefully, across seas, I don't know what would be the difference, but hopefully, the luck of the Irish can be what it takes for Roberto Aguayo to not freaking suck. And last but not least, our punter for the Dublin Shamrocks is none other for the brand Pat McAfee. 31 years old, decides to come back to the NFL after retiring just a few years ago from the Indianapolis Colts at a 66 overall. Should be solid for us. Deciding to take a little break from his podcast and become once again a member of an NFL team. And the head coach of your Dublin Shamrocks is Coach Tyndall. Might be asking, RBT, what's his first name? I really don't know. I have no idea. Now that we've met the team, let's go over the series rules and how we're going to make this team better because, so freaking 53 overall. Gotta get better. We're just going to lose every game by about 107. So for players to take us seriously and for players to want to sign for us in this upcoming free agency, we have got to get some wins. So every time we get a win in the regular season, it counts as 3 points. We total up all the wins from the regular season, and we can use that in free agency. As you guys see, for every 70 to 75 overall, we have to use 4 points. For every 75 to 80 overall, we use 5 points. 80 to 85 overall, 7 points. 85 to 90 overall, 9 points. And 90 plus overall counts as 12 points. And not only do we have to use our points, the only way we'll be able to get free agents to sign for us is if we pay double their asking price. So with these restrictions, which makes sense because like we said, nobody wants to freaking just move to Dublin out of nowhere, is going to take this team through free agency and through the NFL draft forever to get better. And if we won all 16 games, which really won't be like, that's just not gonna happen. We might win one. That would only be a total of 48 points. We'd only be able to sign 4 90 plus overall players. Like I said, guys, if we win more than 3 games, I'm gonna be surprised. Once players start taking us seriously, that's when we can stop doubling the asking price and having that be what it takes to sign a player. Once we make the playoffs in this series, we will no longer have to pay double the asking price because players will actually kind of want to play for us because we're not that bad. And now we get to the point where you guys get involved in the series. Every week until the trade deadline, and I might make it until the end of the season depending on what you guys say, we will cut and sign 1 player per episode. This will be decided by the most liked comments. The comment with the most likes that suggests the player who we cut will be the player that we cut for that episode. And the player that we try out for that episode, it does have to fit the theme of the series, but the comment that suggests the player to try out, it can be any player that does fit the theme of the series, will be the player we try out for that episode, and they will start for that episode. And for the player that we try out, every single episode there will be a straw poll in the description box below. You guys will vote rather the player we try out per episode made the team or if they didn't make the team. So you will have the ability to decide who we sign from the tryouts and to decide who we cut from the tryouts. And if we cut the player that tried out the previous episode, we don't actually have to cut an actual player from our team. It's already there. We will be allowed to make only 1 trade at the trade deadline, but if we do make a trade, we have to forfeit half of our earned points. So, I'm not sure if that'll be worth it or not, but you guys will decide that at the trade deadline. Now, I have a lot of people asking really what fits the theme of this team, because we have guys like Pat McAfee and so on and so forth. Because, Pat McAfee wasn't bad in the NFL, but they're just termed rejects because no other NFL team would want these players at this time, in the NFL. Because nobody's going to want to sign an NFL player that hasn't played for 5 years. Although maybe they were good in the NFL when they played, nobody's going to freaking want to sign a 40-year-old Chad Johnson. Hence why he's a part of this team. It's all about building a team initially of players that no other NFL team wants. And guys, I do want to give a massive shout out to the main man. You guys all know him, not the expert. I'm not gonna lie, his series definitely gave me the inspiration to begin this one. And this is genuinely the first series I'm excited about making in months and months and months. So huge shout out to him, and he does have a very similar custom franchise mode where he does use the London Black Knights. I will leave a link in the description box below. You don't want to go miss this series. It's absolutely incredible. But guys, with this team starting off at a 53 overall with a 55 offense and a 55 defense, we have a lot of work to do. As the first game and the first time the Dublin Shamrocks will take the field will be next episode. So guys, we'll be trying out a player next episode, so leave your comments in the comment section below for what player you think we need to try out for this team. Like I said, it can be any player that I decide fits the mold for this series. I'm not going to let you guys try out freaking Julio Franco or something, because that man, he played baseball and he's about 60 years old. I'm not going to try out Tom Brady either. You guys, this got to at least fit the mold of the series. We also will have the ability to cut a player next episode, so any player you guys don't like on this team, we will cut at the beginning of next episode. Because if a player already gets cut before playing a game on this freaking team, they must be awful and you guys must absolutely despise them. But guys, that is going to do it for the Meet the Players episode. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. And if you did, make sure to drop a like. If we can smash 2,000 likes on this episode, the next episode of this series will drop sometime this weekend. Be sure to subscribe if you are new. Turn on the notification bell if you haven't. I'll catch you guys next time. Have a great rest of your day. God bless and peace.